Hey, Outlaws, welcome back to another Giant Swordsman news and training update. So, what I specifically focused on today, or tonight, I guess, was 2 minutes of non-stop striking, punching, pommel striking, kicking against the pal, 1 minute break, and then do that for 3 rounds. That's the start of it. I also did a very long 5 mile hike slash run through the hills before that. So one heck of a workout today. I'll focus on really building up cardio and overall muscular endurance. Um, but I think I did pretty good. Pretty good. So I'll post up here for the way you can see and follow along. I'll count how many strikes I did. That way you can keep track and I can keep track. But basically it was just a test to see where I was at. It was kind of difficult to do. But I think, again, turned out fantastic. So let's go over here while you watch on the side, and we will see what's going on with this ancient sword that this 8-year-old girl found. Okay, so looking at it right away, it does look quite old. I don't think this is during the Viking era. If it's 1,500 years old, I think that's... So the Viking era was during 900 to 1100 AD. It could be incorrect. I'm not entirely sure. But you see, it's quite old. It's 1,500 years old. I mean, sheesh. This young girl's treating her elders well. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so this was found in Sweden. And so basically the 8-year-old girl was found the 1,500-year-old sword while out swimming. That's hell of a find. I mean, the fact that this thing's sitting somewhere on a lake and not like completely buried in the mud, just gone or covered with silt, that's really impressive, because I'm pretty sure most lakes, streams, everywhere all over the world have tons of swords and just all sorts of human artifacts just buried and lost in them forever, simply because of mud and silt. So the fact that she was able to find it, very impressive. Okay, so I guess she was out, she's a Swedish American, interesting, was throwing sticks and stones while out in the lake. She's described as some kind of stick. So she picked it up and was going to drop it back in the water, but it had a handle, and I saw it was a little bit pointy at the end and all rusty. I held it up in the air and I said, "Daddy, Daddy, I found a sword." When he saw that it bent and was rusty, he came running up and took it. Yeah. Imagine she, thankfully she didn't cut herself. So I was 8 years old and I was playing with a sword I found in the ground, and I had to go get my tetanus shots. I don't know why I'm making her sound British. Sure, she sounds something like that. So her dad, Andy Vanesic, I don't know if that's being pronounced correctly, initially brought it to find the neighbors and colleagues. We thought it was something no. I mean, it's an ancient sword, bro. They suggest the find was likely authentic and should be turned over to experts. I guess it had... So the sword itself was still sheathed in a wood and... Or no. Okay, it wasn't still... Maybe it was still sheathed. I think it was still sheathed in... Or maybe it was just the handle. Maybe the handle was just had wood and leather on it. Interesting how you would know that. It looks like just like a clump of dirt. Okay, so it was sheathed. Okay, so it was still sheathed. Okay, so the 34-inch sword, that's pretty decent size, almost 3 feet long, was sheathed in a holster made of wood and leather. Expert Mikhail Nordstrom of the local Jönköping, maybe that's it. Maybe I pronounced that correctly, aged the sword to 1,500 years old and claims it is well preserved. Yeah, I'd say it was. I'm surprised it's not really destroyed. I mean, entire empires have come and gone with the age of this sword, kingdoms and everything. A local blah, 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 claims it's well preserved. Although he said, "We are very keen to see the conservation staff do the work and see more details of the sword." So that's kind of an interesting thing, is that they can... So years ago, we covered in the channel. I stopped for a while. I'm starting it again, so that way you guys can see my training. And also you get some news, information, history, current events, all sorts of stuff. Because again, I want this channel to offer more and more and more subscribers and visitors. And I think this is a very keen way to do it. I think it's going to take a while for people to understand what's going on, because I noticed not a lot of people clicked on the last video about the dire wolves. But once it catches on, people realize what's going on. I think more will click on it, and I think it'll be more successful. So I have to patiently wait for my audience to understand what's going on, or at least click on it. So one of the sword, we've covered a, I think it was a Roman, no, it was a Crusader sword, and it was completely covered in barnacles and crustaceans, and they did x-rays of that sword to find out that it wasn't in a sheath, and then its location was roughly placed around I think it was a landing site, a sea landing site, basically an amphibious attack that the Crusaders were doing during the Crusade times. So that was one of them, and one of the conservation people used X-rays to scan the sword and be able to find, and were able to pull details from it, and kind of like designs. I don't know if they were able to pull like like inscriptions or whatever. Obviously not, because it faded away with time. But I know they were able to do it overall. It's like what kind of sword it was made of, whether it was sheathed, like what was this rough shape. So they're gonna be able to do the same thing with this one, and it's gonna look pretty damn cool. Not sure they can really restore it, obviously, because all the wood's been, or all the metal's been rusted to hell. But might be able to pull some information from it. So naturally, what happens when people find these things, the government authorities, museum people, museum staff generally ask them to not expose the location, because then everybody in the middle will come rushing over there to find artifacts, because people like artifacts, people like history, they like connection, they like that, or they like other people's cultures, and they want to buy it in the black market or pick it up or sell it or destroy it or whatever. So they had to be quiet about it. So the young girl found it in July 15th, I guess, of last year. So then she wasn't allowed to say anything until Thursday, October 4th. How old is this? This is a week ago. Okay, so this is really, really old news. Kind of too bad it's getting out here. But I guess here's the lake that they were at. I'll click it so you guys can see a little. That's an awful picture. But yeah, you can see two people standing fairly far out there. So I guess it's not a really deep lake. Which that would make sense that the sword would have been dropped probably, or accidentally let go. When someone's trying to cross such a small lake and something gets caught or the sword falls off, whatever. So reading deeper into this, they do have theories on why it was found there or why it was left behind in that lake. For me, I think it could have been just someone was running around and their sword fell off and fell in the water and they were unable to find it. It could have been they were running away from something late at night. Like a lot of crazy stuff happens in history. Like that's why you find silver and gold stashes all the time that people didn't come back for because they got killed, or they were in a hurry when they did. They could never find the spot ever again. Anyways, so another brooch was found simply because the lake's water levels were like kind of receding due to drought, which means it's a seasonal thing. So this has happened before. A brooch was found between 300 and 400 AD. I know it says C here. That's common era, but AD. It was found in the same lake not long after discovery of the sword. Okay, so they are similar time periods. I think this would be, if it's 300, 400 AD, that would be a little bit older, obviously, more like 1700 years old. So yeah, everybody just has a habit of losing stuff in that lake. Okay, so experts are still trying to figure out how the sword bridge came to be in the lake. Obviously, people dropped it there, or lost it there, or simply someone was killed. Who knows? The staff does have a theory, though. It says right here, we don't know yet, but perhaps it's a place of sacrifice. I don't think so, because if it was a place of sacrifice, you would find more artifacts there. Not just a sword. Especially if it's a well-known sacrifice place. And the thing, too, about if it's in Sweden, like the Norse, and also just that era, they would go and they would break into their ancestors' grave sites, and take items that would no longer need to be used by their ancestors. That was a thing. So I don't really know if I believe that this would be a place of sacrifice. Although maybe I'm wrong. It could be. It could be this, someone sacrificed. People would come around later and take those sacrifices back, or reacquire it. This sword could just been just left in the lake, or maybe other people found it a long time ago after it was lost or sacrificed or whatever. And then it was in bad shape, so like, I don't want this, and they just threw it back in the water. I mean, just because the sword survived this long doesn't mean it's like the top quality best sword of all time, okay? And that it wasn't that it was no longer wanted. So this girl, she got to be dubbed the Queen of Sweden. I'm sure that's a wonderful title that has no meaning. As an allusion to the story of King Arthur, who became royalty once he was able to free the sword Excalibur from lady. Is this written by AI? It's giving me kind of AI vibes. The way this is poorly written doesn't make any sense, because He didn't free the sword Excalibur from the Lady of the Lake. Like, he didn't go in there, beat her up, and then steal it from her. He freed it from the sword, the stone. Okay, he got the Excalibur from Lady of the Lake. At least I think his father Uther got it from Lady of the Lake, and then it was put into the stone by him, and then King Arthur was able to pull it. So I kind of think this article was written by either an idiot or AI. Anyways, Outlaws, let me know what you think. Hopefully it's something interesting for you. I like hearing about sword findings. I might have to dig up some more information to find out about it. Here's a little closer look at that sword. It's obviously an ancient sword. What its final condition is now, or like what they would glean from it, I don't know. But hey, we'll probably find out later. All right, we'll see you next time.